Be honored and delighted to have you.
Thank you very
and
much,
to see you. And as you continue to assess the outcomes of the presidential election, are you still questioning why the technology happened to fail only with the presidential election and not the National Assembly ballot, both of which were held on the same day? I'm wondering what questions and issues that raises for you.
Well, frankly speaking, I was flabbergasted, like many concerned Nigerians. But going by some of the reasons adduced by government sources, and I'm not sure whether INEC has put some of those positions forward. I think one of the ministries has stated, or rather a minister, that there was a lot of hacking of the server. So I'm sure when we get to the bridge, it will be crossed. If such an argument is put forward, again, it's going to be tested at the tribunal. So that's what I can say for now.
Yeah, I totally understand your reservations there. Yeah, I understand that. But you are, of course, a well-respected senior advocate of Nigeria in a country where a petition or legal challenge has never led to a presidential election result being overturned. Given the weight of evidence that needs to be submitted to satisfy the court, do you believe that the way things are today in this country, a presidential election can ever be overturned?
Charles, a lot depends on the evidence produced by the petitioners. But I'm not in any way pessimistic. Having regards to our history, with regards to election petitions, I can tell you that for me, it's extremely disturbing, and I've made the point repeatedly. We cannot continue to involve the judiciary in the election of the representatives of our people. We must put an end to it. And we have thought that with enough reforms of the electoral system, that by now we should be taking the courts out of the electoral system. I'm disturbed as a lawyer that Nigerians are now saying the elections have moved to the courts. That's not very complimentary. But as I did say elsewhere, Nigeria has the highest number of pre-election cases in the world and the highest number of election petitions. It should be a matter of concern to all genuine forces of democracy and all stakeholders, whereas the Yar'Adua government in 2007 set up the Justice Ways Electoral Reform Panel to look at this problem, because the winner of the election did say publicly that the election that produced me was highly flawed. And therefore, I'm going to put an end to this ugly development. And so the panel came up with profound recommendations on total independence of the INEC, conclusion of election petitions before the inauguration of a new government, the setting up of an electoral offences commission to deal with electoral offences and malfeasance, so that attorneys general will not terminate those cases by filing applications of non-prosecution. But what has happened is that successive governments have just ignored those fundamental recommendations. And that's why we are where we are. So, but I think a situation where we had about 1,800 pre-election cases, about 600 appeals in the Court of Appeal, about 120 appeals in the Supreme Court. It's not okay. It's not good for
it. It sounds quite unhealthy.
Of course.
Really.
And now,
you've got a big one coming in.
Election petitions all over the place. In a way that all major cases, including cases that pertain to the liberty of those who are languishing in custody, will have to give way to election petitions.
And the gun accidentally went off. You don't go into someone's house, sneak into her bedroom with a loaded gun, point the gun at her, and then say it accidentally went off. I think she thought that would minimize her guilt. They had taken multiple firearms the morning of the murder from the scene and also from Barbara Raver's residence.
Investigators never found the shotgun, which was very curious.
The actual murder weapon, where was that?
Barb Raver, in a text or in a phone call, mentioned that Eli had hidden it on his property, but they never found it.
During that investigation, they did what's called an ATF trace, where we contact the ATF to see what kind of guns might be registered in a certain person's name. And I don't believe any type of firearm in that caliber came back in Edward Raver or Barbara Raver's name. Barbara had stated that she had used a .410 from a friend to go hunting the previous year, but claimed not to know the whereabouts of that gun.
There were also some texts or phone calls that implied that she had taken it and hidden it. That was the only thing missing from the investigation, really, was what happened to the weapon.
Legal circles, a first-time precedent-setting case.
No, we have had cases of this nature.
Yeah, but it's never quite got. I mean, it's never been decided in favor of someone who's making an application.
Yes,
the result.
Yes, you know.
Yeah.
But again, I go back to the 2007 presidential election.
Well, it came close, but it didn't do it, did it?
It was a 4-3, 4-3 justices of the Supreme Court. So it's a split judgment. It could have been either way.
Yeah.
So again, as I said earlier, it depends on the evidence produced. A couple of African countries, presidential elections have been allowed by the court. In Nigeria, a number of election petitions in the states have succeeded,
right,
in which sitting governors have been removed. So there shouldn't be any cause for,
So from your perspective, it's entirely focused on the weight of evidence
for sure.
that is submitted.
For sure.
And you feel confident or not confident that justice will be delivered in the courts in that context, that there isn't a political element to it?
For me, because I go to the court every day.
Right.
Even though the courts in any capitalist society are not neutral with respect to the political development of...
Well, certainly the Supreme Court in most countries is not neutral, including the United States.
It's a political, the Supreme Court
100%.
is a policy court.
Yeah.
And so there's nothing extraordinary, there's nothing strange with developments in this country. Again, going by our experience, in 2007, 2011, a lot of governorship elections were annulled.